We already looked into Aitareya Brahmana. Aitareya Brahmana is a huge Brahmana. It has a lot of stories, myths, and it is all written in the language which is closer to our time, more narrating the stories, more mythology. And Aitareya Brahmana has in itself is inbuilt the Aitareya Aranyaka, part of which is Aitareya Upanishad. So it's kind of like Matryoshka, you know, the dolls within the dolls. So the Aitareya Brahmana is the major, bigger one. Within it, there is a smaller Aitareya Aranyaka, and within it, there is the smallest Aitareya Upanishad. Now, a few things about Aitareya Upanishad. All this belongs to, of course, to Rigvediya Shakha. It belongs to Rigveda Samhita. So Rigveda Samhita has two major Brahmanas, two major recensions. It's Aitareya and Kaushitaki, which are left from the very rich spiritual culture. There were many more recensions, many more shakhas, but these two are available to us. I was already mentioning who was Aitareya. Aitareya, Mahidasa Aitareya is his name. Mahidasa means the slave of earth. It's quite interesting. Yeah? Or the one who surrendered himself to earth, a servant of earth. And there is a reason for it, deeper, maybe reason of integral yoga. That means you are dedicated to the evolutionary process of manifestation, of which Rigveda Samhita is the major treatise, text. So Aitareya was born to the mother who was outcast. Itara was her name. Itara means other, outcast. Yeah, and he was mocked by other rishis and sages that he is not worthy of being a rishi, although his father was a rishi. And to pay them back their respect, he called the whole tradition Aitareya, according to his mother. So now his mother is will be remembered forever, and this is one of the greatest Brahmanas, Aitareya Brahmana. So named by his mother, Itara. Quite interesting. These were daring rishis. They did sometimes these things. So, Aitareya Upanishad, even by Shankaracharya, is considered as the most secret, only for initiate, especially the first part. The first part has 3 chapters, and we will look into these chapters today. Why this is the secret knowledge? Because this is the creation, the vision of creation. I mentioned this many times because I always refer to Aitareya with regard to Purusha Sukta, Purusha sacrifice. So we will, in our course, we will compare Aitareya Purusha Sukta with Purusha Sukta of Rigveda. Aitareya Purusha sacrifice with Purusha Sukta of the Rigveda, and we'll see the difference between the two and what they actually say. So let us look into this text, go through it, through these first 3 chapters of the first part. Atma vaidam eka evagra asit. At the beginning was Atman alone. Nanyat kinchana mishad. There was nothing which was moving. Saikshata. And he thought, Lokanno sarjai iti. May I create the worlds. Saiman lokana srijata. And he created these worlds. Ambho marichi maram apo Dombhav parena divam dyav pratishtantariksham marichaya prithivi maro ya adhastat ta apaha. And he created these worlds. Ambah is the upper waters. Marichi, the marichis, I will come back to them, the particles of light within the space. Maram, the death, and Ambah, and Apach, the lower waters. Adach Ambach, those upper waters, Parena Divam, beyond heaven, and the Aufpratishtra, and the heaven is the bottom. For the upper supreme ocean, the heaven is the bottom. Can you imagine such a swimming pool above, like you're in the lower floor and the upper floor is the swimming pool, and that is the heaven, and beyond heaven there is the upper ocean, where the heaven is the bottom. Antariksham Marichayach, Marichis are Antariksha, Prithivi Maro, the earth is death, and I want also to comment on it. Ya adhastat ta'apach, and what is below earth, those are lower waters of the lower inconscient ocean. So there are two oceans, one the upper luminous ocean and the lower apach ocean. In between we have heaven holding the upper ocean and earth holding the lower ocean. And in between we have Marichi, or the space. Yeah, that's quite a picture. So why Mara is the earth is quite interesting to think from etymological point of view. From root Mari is a constant change of form. Mrij is to cleanse, to convert. If we have the whole set of roots like ma, mi, mu, mri, with all different vowels, we will see that ma is creating a form, mi is creating form with diminishing it, mu is creating a form and binding it with other forms, and mri is cleansing, shaping, perfecting, working upon the forms, or changing constantly the form. Constant mutation of form. So this is what Mara, death, is about. It's a constant working on the form until it is perfected to the extent that it can stay. It doesn't have to die. It doesn't have to be dropped. This is my interpretation of Ruth Marie and death in general. And then, when he created these worlds, second stage of creation comes. Saikshata, he thought. Now, ikshata is interesting word which means thought and willed at the same time. It's very significant that Mother speaks about this, that in the higher supreme vision, the vision is the will. The thinking is the power of will at the same time. So he willed or he thought is the same thing. So it's kind of, for us, it's difficult to imagine that thinking is willing, but it is in a way. What we think, we already somehow will. So he willed, imenu lokahai, these are the worlds. Lokapalan nusrajaiti, may I create the dwellers. Sri Aurobindo says the guardians for my worlds. I think this pala from root pa, to dwell or to fill, those who will fill the worlds or guard them, dwell within, the dwellers within the worlds. Sodbhyayava purusham samudhrityam murchayat. So from these lower waters, lower waters, inconscient waters, he pulled out a Purusha. Samudhritya, having pulled out Purusha, Amurchayat, he gave him a form. This is something very significant and was never looked into. Why lower waters, not from higher waters, Purusha was formed, but from the lower waters of the inconscient ocean. So, and now we will speak about this more. Tam abhyatapat, he heated him up. So he concentrated on him his consciousness force, on this formation from the lower waters. It's something like Adam was made of clay, and then he was put into it, the heat, the force, the life force, the breath. So he concentrated upon his consciousness. Tasya bhitaptasya mukham nirabhidyata, and on him concentrated, his mouth broke forth. Yathandam, as if the egg cracks. Yeah? Mukhadvak, from his mouth, speech. Vacho agnihi, from his speech, Agni came into being. So this Purusha starts to reveal his faculties of consciousness. First comes speech. At the beginning was the word. Then from speech, Agni came into the being, the very flame of the being, of the Lord in dynamic truth. Tasya nasike nirabhidyatam, his nostrils broke forth. Nasikabhyam prana, from his nostrils prana came into being. Pranadvayuhu, from prana, from the vital force, vayu, the wind. Akshini nirabhidyatam, his eyes broke forth. Akshibhyam chakshuhu, from his eyes, the vision. Chakshusha Aditya, and from the vision, light or the sun came into being. Karnau nirabhidyatam, his ears broke forth. Karnabhyam shrotram, from his ears, hearing. Shrotradishaha, from his hearing, the directions of space. Space came into being. Now look at how beautiful it is. Yes, so his vision came into, and from his vision light, his hearing came, and from his hearing space was born. So these outer elements at which we look as space, light, they are nothing but the results of the Purusha wanting to see himself, to hear himself. Yeah? So they are kind of instrumental to his functionality. So that's why everything in this world is instrumental to the functionality of consciousness. Tvang nirabhidyata, his skin broke forth. Tvacho lomani lomabhya oshadhi vanaspatayah. I have to open, I cannot open both, that you can read Sri Aurobindo's translation. This translation was made long ago in 1900 or something, 1901. So it's Sri Aurobindo is in the stage before his mukti, before his liberation. So his skin broke forth. From his skin, the hair came into being. From hair, oshadhi vanaspatayah, the greenery came into being, like greenery all over the earth. Tasya hridayam nerabhidiyata, his heart broke forth. Hridayan mano manasaschandrama, from his heart, mind, from the mind, moon came into being. Tabhir Tasya nabhir nirabhidyata, from his navel broke forth. Nabhya apana, from his navel apana, breathing out. Apanan mrityu, and from the breathing out, death came into being. Shishnam nirabhidyata, his procreatory organ broke forth. Shishnad retach, from the procreatory organ, retas, the seed, retasa apach, from the seed, the lower waters, apach, came into being. Now here there are intuitions, many, which are not visible. It's all packed into the symbols, of course. First of all, that lower waters come from the seed, from the procreatory. That's why that is the source of Purusha. Purusha was made out of the lower waters. And the seed, from the seed, the lower waters again come into being. The waters of the inconscient ocean. So that's why it is deeply rooted. The seed is deeply rooted in the inconscient. Yeah? So all our origins are coming from there. The procreation part starts from the lower ocean. There is with the death is also, there are many intuitions here. His navel, breathing out and death are connected. So if you look at our navel, now our navel is connecting us to the embryo life. It supports our life. Yeah? So there in the womb of the mother, but when we are born, the navel is cut. This is exactly death. We are dying to the life in the embryo, in the womb, and we are born into the separate life. And that is that transition we call death or life or birth. Birth and death are going hand in hand. Yeah? And then there is a very there is another navel string which connects our vital body to the physical body. And that has to be cut in order for us to leave this body and to go out of it again. And there is the whole description by the mother of that navel string was cut in her case with her and, as you remember, and Max Theon. Max Theon with her were experimenting. Max Theon wanted to have the mother because he got the knowledge about the mantra of life and death in the subtle world, which was addressed to Mother Mira. He saw it in the occult world. And he was looking for the mother. He started his cosmic review because he wanted to catch, he knew that she is on earth. And mother found that journal, found him, and came to him to Algeria. So he actually, in occult way, attracted her because he wanted that mantra, only for that reason. Because that mantra of life and death gives you an enormous power. But nobody can unpack it, take it, only the mother. Because it was left by the Vedic rishis from the past to the Mother Mira in the occult world, the mantra of life and death. Unbelievable story. If you tell this story, even Aitareya Brahmana becomes loses its importance. So he, so when he attracted the mother, she went into that world, she found the mantra, and she was ready even to give him already. But then she understood that this is something very special she should not give to Max Theon, some intuition. So, and she stopped, and he became angry, and he cut her string, which connects. You know the story, maybe I'm repeating myself. But when he cut the string, the mother says the difference between exteriorization and death is that it turns upside down. And she saw that the heaven became earth and earth became heaven, and she knew that she died, that there is no connection to the physical body anymore in that subtle state. And then he became afraid that he did this because it was the Divine Mother, he knew about it. And she says if it would not be him there next to her body and she was not there in the mother herself, with this knowledge of from both sides, they could tie the string back and she could come back to the body. So she was dead and she came back with the mantra. And she never gave him this mantra. She gave it to Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo took it and, as mother says, put it into oblivion. Never used it. He could use this mantra. He never used this power ever because he wanted evolution to take place and to change our consciousness rather than to use some magic power of the past. This is the story. Yes, it's a parallel story, but it's about navel. About a navel which connects our physical body to our womb, and then the subtle navel connects our vital body to the physical. And notice they are all connected to death. to the transition. Again, notice root Mari, again the same Mara, earth, yeah? Transition of the being, the constant transition of the form. This was the first chapter. So all these devatas were born out of the Purusha, heated up by Atman. All these faculties revealed themselves, and notice how beautifully it is. So we have the face, we have three major, so we have Agni, Vayu, and Surya, three fires on the face. Yeah? Agni is the essence of earth, Vayu is the essence of Antariksha, Surya is the essence of heaven. Here we have heaven and earth and space in between. It's our face. And then we have just three lower kind of centers, and is the heart, the moon, so to say, the apana, breathing out. And so if he is breathing in, he is breathing out, vital world with death, transition, and Shishnam, the procreatory organ, which is connecting to the physical. So here we have on the torso three centers, and here on the face also beautiful. So this is the pre-Sankhyaik, pre-Tantric paradigm. In Sankhya, later in post-Sankhyaik period, they will speak about chakras more. Yeah? Vishuddha, Arjuna, and Sahasrara. These will be the three centers on the head, and three centers on torso remain the same: heart, navel, and Svadhisthana. Svadhisthana in that case, not Muladhara. Muladhara will belong to the lower physical world. But here we are still in this intuitive perception of our being. Makes sense? Or it is too much what I'm mumbling?
It's a lot to take in, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, we are human beings. We kind of see ourselves as an imprint of that vision, of that universal Purusha imprint. So if you look at our body, it embodies the faculties. Yes, it lives because the faculties are there. It was built because of these faculties. Otherwise, why should we have a body if we can't see, can't touch, can't communicate, can't live? So all these faculties are actually using this embodiment for their own functionality as an instrument. Building the organs, the eye is very sophisticated, ear is even more sophisticated with all those, and the retina has 100 million pixels, which are producing the signals, converting them into the electrical signals, sending to the brain, which is interpreting it. It's an incredible system. Yeah? But it is all used because he wanted to see. So over evolutionary process, he built this instrument. Now, how it happened, there is no yet instrument here in Aitareya. Only these faculties of universal Purusha came out. Now what happened? Ta eta devataha srishta, and all these devatas being born, being created, asmin mahatyarnave prapatan, they fell into this huge inconscient ocean, mahati arnave. Tam Ashanaya Pipasabhyam Anvavarjat, and they were tormented there by hunger and thirst. So these faculties of Purusha, they left Purusha and plunged into the inconscient ocean. And in the inconscient ocean, there was for them neither food nor enjoyment. So they were tormented by hunger and thirst. And they cried to him or spoke to him, Ayatanam naf prajanihi, create for us the abiding place, the living place, the body. Yasmin pratisthita, in which staying, annam adameti, we should partake of food. We are hungry. Now, the hunger and thirst are also symbolic things which are profound, actually. Hunger and thirst. Just look at this hunger. What is this? Why hunger is the fire? It is connected with fire and with death. It burns. It eats. Fire always eats. And if we don't give that food into the system, it will eat the system. It will burn the very body until it dies. Yeah? What is that living force within which eats our body? And we must feed our body because otherwise this fire will eat it up. So this we are tormented from the beginning of our journey by this hunger and thirst within the inconscient ocean. These two, lack of fullness of existence. No? It's hunger. It's a need of fulfillment, of absolute fulfillment in the divine being existence. And until it is done, the hunger will be there. No? And thirst is another very interesting thing. It has something to do with dynamism of enjoyment, taste. It's also lacking, totally lacking in the inconscient, yeah? Because the consciousness is so narrow that these elements are there. They are forcing us to find the fulfillment and to widen the consciousness and move forward. That is the fire which is pushing forward, the hunger and thirst, until it is done. So, Tabhyah, to them, Gam Anayat, he brought to them a cow. Ta'abruvan Navaino Yamalamiti. That is not enough for us. He brought them a horse for embodiment. They said, it's not enough for us. Tabhyah Purusham Anayat. He brought them Purusha, men. Tabruvan, they said, Sukritam Bateti. It is well made, beautifully made. Sukritam, excellent, perfect. Purushovava Sukritam, because Purusha is really perfectly made. Ta bravit, and he spoke to them, Yathayatanam pravishateti, enter him as your abiding place, as your habitation. Now what happens? Interesting. Agnir vag bhutva, Agni having become speech, mukham pravishat, entered his mouth. So now there is recomposition of all those universal qualities back into the individual. So Agni became speech and entered his mouth. Vayu prano bhutva nasike pravishat. The wind became a breath and entered his nostrils. Aditya chakshur bhutva kshini pravishat. Aditya, the light, the sun, became the sight and entered his eyes. So you see the recomposition of the universal Purusha through the faculties of the individual framework is taking place. Dishach, the space, Shrotram Bhutva, became hearing and entered his ears, and so on, one by one. Yes, the Oshadhis, the greenery became the hair and entered his skin. Something has to do skin and greenery, something. Chandrama, the moon, became the mind and entered his heart. The death became the breathing out and entered his navel. The seed, the waters, the lower waters became the seed and entered his procreatory organ. And then, Tam Ashanaya Pipase Abrutan, and the hunger and thirst spoke to him also now, because they already tormented these faculties. They spoke to Atman. Atman who created Purusha, who is making now, dealing with Purusha, sacrificing the Purusha, making him work for the manifestation. That is the sacrifice of Purusha. So they spoke to Atman, avabhyam abhiprajanihiti. And for us also, create the place. Te abravit, and he told them, Etas veva vam devatasu abhajam yeta subhaginyau karometi. I make you the shareholders within these faculties. You will be a shareholders. You will be sharing with them the delight of existence. Tasmad yasyai kasyai cha devatayai havirgrihyate. Therefore, if to anyone, any devata, the offering is made, because these faculties, seeing, hearing, these are the devatas, according to Upanishads, they are the gods. To whatever devata the offering is made, bhaginyao, the shareholders, the partakers of that delight, also ashanaya pipase bhavatah, will be the hunger and thirst. They are joining the party. That's how, actually, I believe that's how we got the sense of the ego sense, because our faculties are constantly hungry. So our sight is hungry, our hearing is hungry, our speech is hungry. We want more and more of the divine fulfillment. Interesting. Mother says that absolute desire to get more and more and more and never enough is the sign of the divine, of the evolution of consciousness. Yeah, that it looks like a bit ridiculous because ego wants more. Yeah, but because it is never satisfied. That is the sign of the divine present there. Yeah? Because until the divine is realized, it will never stop. So you see how beautifully it is explained in different ways, less religious and more psychological, actually. So we can see that our desires are also a part of the deal, of the whole, economy of the divine fulfillment. Though they are kind of stopping us, kind of preventing us from finding ourselves. At the same time, they are pushing the faculties forward. The faculties are never satisfied. And then Sri Aurobindo will speak about this, that we have to redirect these faculties towards the spirit, towards the inner fulfillment, and to allow them to work to bring the inner light to the surface. This was the Vedantic yoga. So here, hunger and thirst are inbuilt in the faculties as shareholders of their delight, and that's why we got this sense of ego sense in nature, which is recollecting all the faculties of consciousness, recomposing them in accordance with its own wishes. The foundation of our ego sense is hunger and thirst. That's why nature made that projection, created this ahankara, I-ness, individual perception of oneself, individualization of one's own desires, and so on and so forth. And that was supported by that constant hunger and thirst within the faculties. Without this, of course, there would be no ego sense, definitely. And by the way, we have another paradigm, Vedantic paradigm, pre-Sankhyayic paradigm, before Sankhya, where there is no vision of Ahamkara yet. We see only that the faculties are related to the Purusha himself. Among them, there is speech, hearing, thinking, seeing, breathing in and breathing out. And all of them are bypassing ego sense, ahankara, and are connected directly to our Purusha, to our self, to our true self. So we can deconstruct ourselves in such a way and not directing the actions of these faculties through ahankara, not focusing on hunger and thirst too much, bypassing hunger and thirst, as it were, putting them aside for a while, and dealing directly with these faculties, we could come and realize the unborn self in us, the universal Purusha who is behind. And notice we are all sharing these faculties. We are all having seeing. We are not having different faculties. We are all having the same faculties: seeing, hearing, speaking, thinking. So we are sharing the faculties of the universal Purusha, though it is in the individual framework. It's kind of amazing to think that that's why we can communicate. That's why the world is one. Because behind there is one universal Purusha with these universal faculties. And then chapter 3. Now, Shankaracharya says that, yeah, the whole this first part, but especially for chapter 1 and 2 are for initiate. And then chapter 3, which is amazing. I will go through it very fast because it's less to comment. Saikshata imenu lokaha lokapalascha. These are the worlds, these are the dwellers in the worlds. The dwellers are the faculties. They are the dwellers, they are dwelling within different bodies. They are creating the bodies. By the way, that idea that he brought them horse and this cow and it was not enough, it's also an evolutionary vision of very brief terms, yes, not to speak that starting from amoeba, monocellular organism, where all the faculties are already inbuilt, and amoeba tries to communicate, to speak, to see, but there are no organs yet, but it multiplies, develops, body by body by body, until it is becoming the Purusha body, where finally these faculties can express themselves consciously. Yeah. So the organs are built, which are allowing the complexity of brain system, allows it to be brought to the surface, to the physical manifestation. All those faculties of the universal Purusha can act now consciously here. So here we are. These are the worlds, these are the dwellers within the worlds. Annam ebhyah srijayiti. May I create for them food. Tadetat tad enat srishtam parangatya jighansat tadvacha jagrikshat nashakno dvacha grahitum sayadhaina dvacha grahishyat abhivyaharitya haivannamatrapsyat. This is such archaic language, beautiful. So that annam which was created, food being created, fled back from his grasp, tried to avoid being absorbed and assimilated into his being. Yeah? Doesn't want to be eaten food, wants to survive. Tadvacha ajigrikshata. He wanted to catch it by the speech. Tanashaknot, and couldn't catch it by the speech, because if he could catch it by the speech, by expressing oneself in speech, he would already be satiated, would man be satisfied by merely speaking food? We are not satisfied by speaking food. We want to eat it. Saying food, that's in India, they have this joke. When politicians speak, people come and say, halwa, halwa, halwa. You know what halwa means in this situation? I never knew until somebody explained. When I explained, I couldn't resist not to share this with you. Halwa means, you say many times halwa, halwa, but we don't feel sweetness in the mouth. This is exactly speaking food. Speaking halwa doesn't bring sweetness. So tat pranena jigrikshat. He wanted to catch it by prana, but couldn't, because by breathing in, he would be already satisfied. And by breathing in food. Let me breathe in. So cake. Not enough. Tat chakshusha jigrikshat tanashaknot chakshusha grahitam. He tried to catch it by sight, couldn't do it, because if that would be enough, by looking at food, you would be already satisfied. He tried to catch it by hearing, again, hearing about food, couldn't do it, because he would be satisfied by hearing of food. Tat tvacha jigrikshat. He tried to catch it by skin. Yeah, I'm usually joking. Jumping into the cake doesn't work. You have to eat it. You can put everywhere cake, and doesn't satisfy. Tan manasa jagrikshat, tan nashaknot manasa grahitam. He tried to catch it by mind, by thinking, but couldn't do it because thinking of food would not satisfy the man. Shishnena jigrikshat. He tried to catch it by procreatory organ and couldn't do it, because by procreating he would not be satisfied by food. Tat apanena jigrikshat. He tried to catch it by apana. Notice the shift. Apana, by breathing out. Tadavayat, and he got it. He got it by breathing out. Saishon nasya graho yadvayur annayur vayesha yadvayu. So by apana, he would have seized it. And it was seized. Lo, this is the seizer of food, which is also breath of the life. And therefore, all that is breath has its life in food. What is interesting here, if you remember Adam and Adam, how he was created by God, this breathing out is how he caught the clay. The clay was caught, or that food, which is we are food, we are eatable, this physicality was caught by the breathing out. He had to breathe out in a way, he had to die into us to live. So by apana, and that's why apana, navel, and death are connected. By death, he could catch the food, the murti, the annam, the formation of physicality, and it is also murti, as it is starting with murti, I think. Yes. Maybe I skipped this, I don't remember. So may I create for them a form. Yes. So I missed the whole point. Anna me bhyasrajayati. May I create for them food. So po bhyatapat. He heated up the lower waters. Tabhyach. Abhitaptabhyach. And from them heated up murti rajayata. The form came into being. Yavai samurti. What is form? Ajayata was born. Annam vaitat, that is eatable, that is matter. Formation. So this, to catch the formation, he could do it only by death, by dying. There was no other way for him to be embodied in matter. There was no other way to take this matter unconscious being onto oneself, only through dying. We had to agree to die. It's amazing insight, actually. Yeah? Sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Here it is. And then, to finish the whole chapter, we are a little over time, but we started 15 minutes later. Sa etam eva simanam vidaryaitaya dvara prapadyata. He cracked this over the head, the opening, and by that it was this bound that he cleft. It was by this door that he entered in. Saisha Vidriti Nama. This is called the gate of the cleaving, Vidriti, tearing apart. Dvastadetanandanam, and this is the door of his coming, and he is the place of delight. Tadetanandanam. Tasya traya avasathah, he has 3 dwellings, 3 mansions in his city, 3 dreams wherein he dwells. And of each he turns and says, lo, this is my habitation, this is my habitation, this is my habitation. Tasya traya avasatah, traya svapnaha, 3 dreams and 3 habitations. I am avasatha, this is habitation. I am avasatha, this is the habitation. I am avasatha, this is the habitation. It looks like the teacher is speaking and showing the habitations. I think this is the mental, vital, and physical, as it were. This is the habitation, this is and this. Heaven, space in between, and earth. 3 habitations, 3 dreams. Sajato bhutan yai bhivyaiket. Kimiha niyama bhava deshatiti. Now, when he was born, he thought and spoke only of nature and her creations. When he was born, he couldn't think of anything else. You remember the secret knowledge in Savitri? He forgot himself to find himself anew in her. He gave himself totally to her. This is how he came to her. In this world of matter, of what else should he speak or reason? What else do you want to speak here, if not of this embodiment? Thereafter he beheld that being who is the Brahman and the last essence. He said, yea, this is he, verily I have beheld him. These are the ecstatic exclamations. Being here in the body, he realized the transcendental being here in the body, staying behind all this, is the meaning of all this. Tasmadidandro name dandro havai nama. Therefore, he is Idandra. For Idandra is true name of him. Idamdra, this is the play of the words, tearing this, cracking this. But though he is Idandra, they call him Indra because the veil of the unrevelation. So the Idandra is called Indra. For the gods love the veil of the unrevelation. Ye, verily, the gods love the unrevelation. They want to be hidden. They want to be secret. So that's why they hide in the name Indra, Idandra, breaking this into 2 and making 3 out of 1. This is, of course, the knowledge for initiated, and you can imagine that reading it for the first time may not be sufficient one time. You need to dwell on it and meditate upon it, and you will get more and more answers from this knowledge. It's a proper kind of hierarchy of things. First, he created the worlds, then the dwellers within the worlds, which became the faculties of Purusha, which fell into the inconscient ocean, and he brought them the bodies one by one until they found the proper body to represent the Purusha in fullness, not in partial form, not in the animal form, not in the lower forms of nature. And by death he could catch the form, and by death he could secure his living in the material nature. Now I stop here and open to the questions or remarks.
It's a creation story that I wasn't familiar with, that and I think it's beautifully told.
Yes, yes, it's beautifully told. very clear in understanding.
Very nice. For me, it was such an impression.
Yes.
Changed my views on integral yoga and everything. Why I'm so after faculties of consciousness? Because of this. So Upanishads speak only on the faculties. They don't speak about consciousness. For them, consciousness is Purusha. You know? And his faculties are these faculties by which we know him. You know?
Yes.
So how can you arrive at Purusha without really dealing with faculties?
Yes.
So they have to be purified. They have to become a pure channels of his kind of presence. And behind every of these faculties is him. So through them we can actually have a sense of him or feel his presence through these active faculties of consciousness in this manifestation right now, here. Seeing, hearing, speaking, thinking, feeling. It is him.
Yeah, that connection becomes so clear, and
Yes.
it's really profound.
And it also helps to see the oneness in everything then. Because we are all connected, because we all have the same faculties, the universal Purusha, as Vladimir explained. In that sense, we are all one again.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can meaningfully communicate because we see, though we have different interpretations, we see the same world. Satyena tabhita bhumi. By the truth, the bhumi is established. So that truth is kind of correlative for all of us to focus and to learn to work together, to see together, to speak together, to feel together. This oneness in diversity is to be realized. As the Rig Veda, the last hymn of the Rig Veda says, yes, so go together, speak together, think together. Yeah. As the gods did this at the beginning of this creation, these gods, the devatas of Purusha sacrifice, yeah? It is his faculties, they were together. They were representing the Supreme Being. So we have to come back to that unity of that Supreme Being in this diversity. Yeah, it's an Indian ideal, actually. That's why it's anthropomorphic culture, always in the form of Purusha, man. And in that sense, they are very practical and very. So spirituality is not some kind of remote, some kind of ghosts, hosts living somewhere, some kind of gods which we have to invite. It is all about this embodiment and this being.
Yes.
Stacy is also behind there, but it's too early for her, most probably. Yes, Stacy.
Yeah, I got up a little late, so I am keeping my camera off.
Okay.
So good of you to join on California time. Gosh.
Yeah, thank you for coming, Stacy, also, yes.
The late start was perfect for me, actually.
Great. All right, so we can stop here. This was a great Aitareya first 3 chapters. There will be 2 more chapters, which will be down to earth. If you want to see them, how the beings are born, man and woman, Panchagni Vidya, it's quite interesting how it is happening in the physical world. And then there will be a conclusion which is mind-blowing of Aitareya. What it is for, all. What's the reason of all this trouble?
That's a lot to look forward to. That's great.
Yes, all right. All right, okay, I'll close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavanto Sukhinaha Sarve Santo Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyanto Ma Kaschit Dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Harihi Om. So we will be meeting on this meeting. I will leave this meeting for us and put it there, and we'll send you, because that webinar would be kind of more difficult. I don't know how to manage it. Okay, this meeting. You can copy this number, so it will be the same number. You can click on it and come to.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you. Bye.
So thank you.